After days of being lost, Claire and Jack found each other amidst life's bustling tide. Not in cold rain, but under the gentle moonlight of kindness. From a crumpled $10 bill, love blossomed from ashes. He kissed her, not to erase the past, but to paint their tomorrow. A secret once tore them apart, yet love has healed it all, sweet and eternal. Welcome, dear family, to Soul and Love Stories. How are you today? I hope your heart blazes with love, your eyes shimmer with hope, and your soul resonates with beautiful tales. Wherever you are, you're not alone. I'm here with you on this quest for true love. Let's ignite a small prayer. God of love, touch every heart here today. Kindle their passion, heal their wounds, and guide them to the love stories you've destined. May unexpected joy flood in, turning sorrow to smiles, and may love forever bloom within them. Amen. Soul and Love Stories family, did you adore Claire and Jack's journey? We're building a home for love, aiming for 1,000 subscribers. It's not just a number, it's our dream, a community where love triumphs. I need you. Just one subscribe from you brings us closer to that miracle, uniting 1,000 souls in love's embrace. Now step into the next story with me. Claire Thompson stood at Penn Station, New York, amid the bustling crowd, clutching her last $10 bill as if it were a lifeboat in a stormy sea. At 28, she was smart, kind-hearted, but luck had clearly abandoned her long ago. Her mother had passed away 3 months earlier, leaving behind a pile of medical bills in an empty apartment. Her last job, assistant at an old bookstore, ended when the owner decided to retire and raise cats. And just this morning, she'd been rejected for a donut shop gig because, according to the manager, she didn't exude passion for flour. Passion for flour? Claire nearly shouted that she'd hug a sack of it if it came with a paycheck, but she just pursed her lips and stumbled out, her mind spinning. Now she was headed to one final interview, a temp office job, with the faint hope it might save her from sleeping in a park. That $10 in her hand was all she had left for a train ticket and a cheap coffee to look semi-awake. But as she stepped toward the ticket counter, a staggering figure appeared in her path. The man looked like he'd stumbled out of a disaster flick. His coat was tattered, his hair a wild mess, and one shoelace was missing from his worn-out sneakers. He, Jack, though Claire didn't know his name yet, gazed at her with big, desperate brown eyes. "Sorry, miss," he rasped, voice hoarse. "I lost my wallet. I just need $10 to get home. I swear I'm not a con." To prove it, he bent down, picked up a filthy sock from the station floor, and held it up like evidence of his misery. The stench hit Claire so hard she wrinkled her nose, but she couldn't hold back a laugh. "Oh, fantastic," she shot back, still gripping the bill. "This is my last $10 to survive the week, so if you're scamming me, say a prayer for my soul at this station, okay?" She tilted her head, sizing him up. There was something about Jack, the way he fumbled with that sock like it was a white flag, that made her both suspicious and amused. But then her soft heart kicked in. With a sigh, she shoved the money into his hand. "Here, take it. And if you're a millionaire in disguise, come back and rescue me, got it?" Jack blinked, stunned, then flashed a crooked grin. "You're an angel," he said, pocketing the bill. "I swear I'll come back. With a whole limo, deal?" Claire burst out laughing, shaking her head. "Sure, I'll be here with a crown and roses," she yelled as he stumbled toward the train. The doors closed, whisking Jack and her last $10 away. Claire stood there, hands empty, half annoyed, half tickled at herself. She had no idea that silly moment had just laid the cornerstone for a miraculous tale. But right now, all she knew was this. She was officially broke, and maybe a little crazy. Claire stepped out of the station with empty pockets and a heavy heart, but she tried to keep her spirits up, muttering to herself, "It's fine, I'll dazzle them with my smile. Who needs coffee anyway?" She made it to the office building on time, but her streak of bad luck wasn't done with her yet. As she entered the interview room, she tripped over her shoelace, spilling the manager's coffee all over his pristine white shirt. Panicking, she stammered, "I'm great under pressure, except I just gave my last $10 to a stranger, and now my hands are shaking like I brewed coffee for the whole city." The manager stared at her, face blank as a statue, then pointed to the door. Thanks, but we need someone who makes coffee, not spills it, he said. Claire shuffled out, wondering if she should pitch herself as the star of an ad campaign. How to ruin everything in 30 seconds. Things got worse when she returned to her boarding house. The landlady, an older woman named Marge, who loved karaoke more than landlording, was waiting at the door. Claire, you owe me 3 months' rent. I need cash for a new speaker. Tonight's Sweet Caroline, and I can't use a junky one. Claire pleaded, give me 1 more week, I'll find a job. But Marge shook her head, shoving Claire out with her bag of belongings and yelling, sing karaoke with me tonight, and I'll knock off half a month's debt. Claire eyed her pile of stuff and sighed. I'd rather sleep on the street than croak off key with her. That night, Claire tried sleeping in an abandoned shopping cart in a nearby park, but her rest was cut short by pigeons chasing each other overhead. The days that followed were a blur of wandering, through libraries, parks, and shops, applying for jobs anywhere, from scooping ice cream to walking dogs. All she got were headshakes or pitying looks. Hungry, exhausted, and desperate, she curled up on a park bench, staring at her torn shoes and muttering, maybe I should sell these for a loaf of bread. Just then, a tiny old woman with snow-white hair approached, her smile radiating warmth. She held a foil-wrapped sandwich and pressed it into Claire's hands. Don't be sad, dear, she said, her voice chipper. Life's like a pot of soup. Mess it up, dump it, and start over. Eat this, then head to the soup kitchen on 5th Street. You can eat and help out. Claire looked up, torn between tears and laughter. Are you a chef or a philosopher? She asked. The woman chuckled heartily. Both. I'm Ruth. Remember my name. Then she turned and walked off, leaving Claire with the sandwich and a flicker of hope amid the storm. Claire trudged to the soup kitchen on 5th Street, clutching Ruth's sandwich like a lucky charm. She pushed the door open, and the smell of potato soup mingled with laughter hit her, unexpectedly lifting a weight off her chest. The manager, Carol, a middle-aged woman with wild red-dyed curls and a big sister vibe, gave Claire a once-over. Nice hair, Carol said, hands on hips, but don't let it fall in the soup, got it? Claire managed a weak smile. I'll keep the hair in check, but no promises about my growling stomach. Carol roared with laughter, clapping her on the shoulder. I like your spunk. Stick around and help. I'll feed you for free. In the days that followed, Claire found a new rhythm among the pots of soup and stacks of bread. She washed dishes, stirred broth, and chatted with the regulars, from an old man spinning war stories to a cheeky kid who splattered sauce on her shirt. One time, she accidentally tipped a pot of watery soup onto the floor, her face flushing as she apologized. But an elderly man chuckled. Better this way. Last week's thick stuff nearly choked me. The room erupted in applause, and Claire realized she was genuinely smiling. For the first time in weeks. The work didn't pay, but it gave her back her faith. She grew to love the people here, and even Carol's tales of her youth as a dancer, now leaping around the kitchen to dodge burning pots. One evening, Carol slipped a small envelope into Claire's hand. Inside was $20. A little something for your effort, Carol winked. Claire stared at the bills, eyes stinging. I never thought dishwashing could be worth this much, she whispered, pulling Carol into a tight hug. One rainy afternoon, as Claire wiped down tables, a man walked in wearing grimy work clothes, carrying a bucket and broom. He looked scruffy, hair plastered wet to his forehead, and Claire thought, another drifter, huh? She approached with a bowl of soup. Rain like this, you need something warm, she said kindly. The man looked up, flashing a familiar crooked grin. Still as generous as the day you gave me your last $10, huh? He said, his voice low and warm. Claire frowned, peering closer, then nearly dropped her tray. Those big brown eyes, that lopsided smile. It was Jack, the guy from the station, but this time no smelly sock in hand. He stood there disguised as a new volunteer, gazing at her with a mix of mischief and tenderness. Claire froze, the soup tray trembling in her hands as if it might crash again. The drifter, no, the new volunteer, had just said something about $10? She stared at Jack, digging through her memory. Those brown eyes, that crooked smile, that familiar clumsiness. Hold on, she said, her voice wavering. Are you begging for another $10? I'm fresh out. Jack laughed, a warm sound cutting through the patter of rain outside. He set down his bucket and broom, wiped his hands on his grimy work clothes, and stepped closer. "No, I'm here to repay you," he said, his eyes twinkling. "Don't you recognize me? Penn Station? Your last $10 and the stinky sock?" Claire blinked, then her jaw dropped. "Oh my God, it's you!" She plunked the tray on the table, hands on hips. "I thought you'd ridden off in a limo by now. What's with the janitor act?" Jack scratched his head, grinning sheepishly. "Well, I didn't totally lie that day. I did lose my wallet and got nipped by a station dog that thought I'd swiped its sausage." Claire snorted, picturing Jack fleeing a yapping mutt with torn pants. "So you came back to tell me about your dog bite?" she asked, half skeptical, half amused. Jack shook his head and sat across from her. "No, I came back for you. I'm Jack Carter, CEO of Carter Tech, a Manhattan tech company. That day I was posing as a homeless guy to see real life, but I got pickpocketed for real. You were the only one who stopped to help." Claire's mind spun. CEO? Tech? She glanced at him, then at his grubby outfit. "Wait a sec," she said. "You're a millionaire dressed like you just dug a ditch? Are you scamming me again?" Jack laughed heartily. "No scam. I came today to check on you, but I didn't want to freak you out with a suit and tie." She tilted her head, still not fully convinced. "Then why didn't you pay me back that $10 instead of letting me go broke?" Jack shrugged, a playful glint in his eyes. "Because I wanted to see you again the right way. No sock involved." Claire blushed, torn between annoyance and flattery. "Fine, Mr. Millionaire," she said. "If you're so rich, buy me a coffee. But fair warning, I spilled some on a boss this morning, so don't blame me if you end up sticky." Jack stood, offering his hand. "I'll take the risk. Let's go." They left the soup kitchen, stepping into the drizzle toward a nearby cafe. Claire promptly spilled sugar on the table, and Jack pretended to count each grain, saying, "I'm pricing you by this sugar. Probably $1,000,000. She laughed, her heart racing. Amid the banter and stolen glances, she felt something spark. Silly, sweet, just like their first meeting at the station. Claire sat across from Jack in the cafe, her fingers still sticky from the sugar spill earlier. Jack took a sip of coffee, then suddenly set his cup down, locking eyes with her. "Claire, I want you to join my charity foundation," he said, his tone serious. "We help people like you've been, homeless, jobless. You've got the heart I need." Claire blinked, nearly spitting out her coffee. "Wait a sec," she said. "Are you really a millionaire? Or just better at tall tales than that station guy? I mean, I only know how to wash dishes and spill soup. I'm not cut out to run a foundation." Jack smiled, unfazed. "I've hired MBAs from Harvard and folks who've slept on the streets. I don't need degrees. I need someone who gets what they're helping. You gave me your last $10 when you had nothing. That's something no one can teach." Claire bit her lip, her mind a whirlwind. She felt small next to him. No fancy education, no experience, just a pile of funny flops. "But what if I mess up?" she asked, her voice tinged with a playful jab. "Does your foundation need a coffee maker? Because I'm clearly awful at that." Jack laughed, leaning back. "You know, I once invested in a candy machine that went haywire. Gave the whole city free sweets for a week. Failure's not the issue. It's how you bounce back." Claire looked at him, a mix of doubt and warmth stirring inside. He wasn't just some goofy rich guy. He saw her in a way she'd never expected. "All right," she finally nodded, a smirk tugging at her lips. "I'm in, but you've got to promise not to go undercover, begging me for cash again. I'm all out of $10 bills." Jack raised his hand like he was swearing an oath. "Scout's honor." They burst into laughter, and Claire felt a fresh breeze sweep through her life. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time she believed she could do it, with Jack by her side, and maybe a sprinkle of luck from that fateful $10 bill. Claire threw herself into work at Jack's charity like a whirlwind, a slightly clumsy one, but brimming with passion. With his support, she pitched the Mobile Meals Project, delivering hot food to the homeless on little carts. On launch day, her nerves got the better of her, and she spilled a tray of bread onto the sidewalk. But she burst out laughing when a nearby street band scooped it up, munching away while serenading her with Sweet Caroline. "Free advertising," she shouted, and the crowd around her clapped. The project took off like wildfire, spreading through newspapers and social media. Claire, once a girl sleeping in a shopping cart, had become a symbol of kindness. One evening, she was invited to speak at a big fundraising event. Standing before the crowd, Claire told her story about the $10 bill, the soup kitchen, and how she rediscovered herself. Her voice trembled, but her smile shone bright. Afterwards, still buzzing, she stepped backstage, where a petite homeless woman approached for a photo. Claire smiled, reaching out, but the woman removed her hat, revealing familiar white hair. "Ruth!" Claire gasped, eyes wide. The old lady chuckled, her eyes sparkling. "Still as kind as the day you gave my boy that $10, aren't you?" Claire's jaw dropped. "Your boy? You mean Jack?" Ruth nodded, pulling her to sit. "I'm Jack's mom, dear. And truth be told, I'm the secret founder of this foundation. Jack just took it over." Claire reeled back, nearly knocking over a water glass. "Oh my God, your whole family loves playing poor. You gave me a sandwich. Jack begged for $10. Have I been duped this whole time?" Ruth roared with laughter, patting her shoulder. "I just gave you a meal, but your heart paved the way. I saw you in that park back then and knew you were special." Claire stared at Ruth, stunned yet moved. She wasn't just a quirky old lady. She was the thread tying everything together. "You orchestrated all this?" she asked, voice choking. Ruth winked. "Not quite. I gave you a nudge. You soared on your own." Claire threw her arms around her, tears streaming down. She hadn't just found her worth. She'd found a family in the most magical way that $10 had sparked. A year later, Claire stood in a brightly lit hall, hosting the one-year anniversary of the Mobile Meals Project. The people she'd helped, from the old man with war stories to the sauce-spilling kid, were there, clapping enthusiastically. Dressed in a simple green gown, she beamed, no longer the desperate girl of the past. Jack strode onto the stage, microphone in hand, making Claire squint. "What, are you gonna sing Sweet Caroline?" she whispered, teasing. Jack winked, then boomed. "Hello, everyone. Tonight we're holding a special auction." Claire looked puzzled as Jack held up a crisp $10 bill. "First item, this $10, the fateful debt I owe Claire Thompson." The crowd roared with laughter. "Anyone bidding higher?" he asked, then dropped to one knee, revealing a small ring box in his other hand. "But really, I'm bidding with my whole life. Claire, you gave me everything when I had nothing. Now I want to spend the rest of my days giving it back. Will you marry me?" The room fell silent, then erupted in cheers. Claire flushed, hand over her mouth, laughing through tears. "If you pay me that $10 with 1,000,000% interest, I'll think about it," she joked, voice choked. Jack grinned, sliding the ring onto her finger. "Deal sealed," he said, pulling her into his arms. She nodded, tears streaming, whispering, "Okay, you millionaire." They kissed amid the uproar, camera flashes popping like fireworks. Suddenly, an older man stepped forward, voice trembling. "Claire gave me my first meal when I'd lost everything. Now I've got a job, thank you." Others rose, sharing their stories, turning the night into a symphony of gratitude. Claire and Jack stood in the center, hand in hand, surrounded by the community they'd built together. A narration echoed in her heart, a small act of kindness, sometimes the start of a miracle. From a crumpled $10 bill and a tattered sock, Claire didn't just find love, she transformed an entire community. A small act of kindness can lead you to miracles. Do you believe that? If this story warmed your heart or brought a tear to your eye, hit that like button now. Drop a 7 in the comments below and share your own moment of kindness. We'd love to hear it. And if you're touched by Claire and Jack's journey, join our Soul and Love Stories family. Hit subscribe and help us reach 1,000 souls united in love. Together, let's keep these beautiful tales alive.